Hey guys, and welcome to the video. So I'm actually recording this right after my last video because I realized at the very end there, it'd be kind of fun to also go through all of the Saints Row games villains and basically talk about which villain I liked and disliked the most. I thought that this would be really interesting and I'm really curious to hear your take on this. Now, we're basically doing this in the exact same format. We'll start with Saints Row 4, go 2, 3, 4, reboot, and then maybe do the bonus things at the end of the game. Probably not this time around though, because honestly I just can't remember Agents of Mayhem or Gather the Hell that much. So yeah, bear with me there. So let's start with Saints Row 1. So as for the best villain in Saints Row 1, I hear you ask, it's a tricky one. Now, I'm actually going to go with Tanya. I felt like she was the most interesting to me, and she was the one that really stuck out to me. After the whole thing with Ben King went down, I just absolutely loved that whole story arc and how it ended. I remember it just being really badass. And for me, that is by far the best villain in Saints Row 1. I know that that's probably going to be a divisive answer, but I'm curious to see what you guys think about that. And then, I guess, with the worst one, again, I'm really struggling here, but the one I kind of forget about the most is Mr. Sharp. Yeah, it's not that he's a bad character, and I actually kind of love everything about that gang and everything the way it plays out, but, yeah, I just, unfortunately, I just can't really remember too much about how it goes down. I felt it was one of the more forgettable moments in the game, but I would still say it's great. It's just, like, the least great out of all of them, which, when you're talking about Saints Row 1, is not a bad thing, because the least great is still 10 times better than anything that came out after 2008, so let's be real, okay? But yeah, yeah, I feel like he's a great character still, but if I had to pick one, it'd probably be that. But once again, if you would prefer to just basically think that I don't have one for that section, you're welcome to. It really shows how great Saints Row 1's characters really are when you can't think of a best and worst. Like, the issue with getting the best for Saints Row 1 is all the characters are great, and then the issue with getting the worst is none of them are bad. What a legendary damn game, man. But let's move on to Saints Row 2, because this one I know 100% where I'm going. So as for best villain, I'm going to go with Shogo. I feel like he was really cool, and the whole Ronin story arc was badass, and I just love the fucking final mission with him. No one can deny to me that that is the most badass moment we have ever seen in a Saints Row game. I would kill to see something like that again in a Saints Row game. What an incredible story, and yeah, Shogo to me is undefeated purely because of the final cutscene with him in, and how the entire thing takes place. I guess you could also count Junichi into that because he did take a bigger part of that, but he wasn't resolved in a satisfying way, in my opinion. We just kind of had like a fight scene, but no awesome badass cutscene. I suppose that kind of takes place early though in the story where we have that one cutscene that's insane. But yeah, for me, Shogo is probably the best villain in the Saints Row 2 because the Ronin are easily the best gang, in my opinion. So, I guess it now leads us to the worst one. Now, actually, this is not a hard decision for me. With Saints Row 2, you'd think, oh wow, all the gangs are great, but honestly, this is the easiest decision I've ever had to make. It's the General. He sucks in Saints Row 2. Like, big time. I don't mean to be mean here, but he is just so forgettable. Like, I can't think of a single, quote from the General. Now, Mr. Sunshine's badass, and honestly, I kind of see him as the true villain. He has an awesome cutscene where you kill him, and it's just kind of crazy insane. And then also you got Veteran Child who kidnapped Shaundy, but the actual General himself, there's not much to him. Saints Row 2's The General is just really weak, and that's why he's my pick. I'm sure people will agree with me on that, but I'm curious to see if anyone thinks I'm way off and The General is actually some amazing character. Again, in retrospect, he's probably not that bad in comparison to what we actually have nowadays. Oh, the pain. So Saints Row 3, first Saints Row game I ever played. What's my opinion on this? What is the best? What is the worst? Well, easily the best for me is Killbane. You genuinely hate him. He's badass. He's the reason that all this shit kind of goes down. And whilst I don't fully understand the story with Killbane, like, I'm telling you, man, I still don't understand that bridge cutscene. I never will. I still think Killbane is just one absolutely badass fucking villain. And I think he was done really well. And that final speech with him is absolutely insane. So yeah, Killbane is definitely my favorite villain in the game. He's incredible. Now, for my least favorite, I feel like a lot of people are going to expect me to go Matt Miller, and I would totally understand why, but I'm not. I'm going Philippe Laurent. Now, the reason I say this is because he is just such a waste of potential. What? It's not fair, man. Like, Philippe Laurent is by far, in my opinion, when it comes to, how he looks, how he acts, the coolest boss we've had in a Saints Row game yet. I think Philippe Laurent just looks like such a fucking badass, the owner of a criminal enterprise, and he would have been so cool if his death lasted more than 3 missions. Like, what the fuck? Like, how can we do this? Like, we took one of the best we took honestly one of the coolest looking, sounding, and acting characters, the one who actually killed Johnny Gat before 4 happened, and then killed him in the first third of the game? Yeah, that was a massive letdown. Philippe Loren's a big stinky. Say what you want about Matt Miller not fitting into the game, but at least he actually has a story. Fuck Philippe Loren, man. But, now that brings us on to Saints Row 4. Shit. Well, the best villain, Zinyak. The worst villain, Zinyak. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe for Saints Row 4, we'll just go and include the DLC. The best villain was Zinyak, like I said, but the worst villain, maybe the dominatrix woman, or I don't know, perhaps that Dom guy that sits on the chair in that game. Maybe Santa. I don't fuck. What do you want from me? Now for the reboot. This is gonna be the easiest one out of the lot. Atticus Marshall is actually the only, in my opinion, decently wrote villain. When I say decently, I mean reboot standards, of course. But he's not that bad. You actually have a reason to hate him, and you execute revenge on him. Of course, it's done in the reboot style. Oh no. But yeah, I mean, all jokes aside, I'd say Atticus Marshall's not half bad. I feel like, honestly, he'd have fit straight into, like, Saints Row 3 and 4, which, you know, usually people would say that's a bad thing, but, again, nowadays, honestly, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. Now for the worst villain of the reboot, it's just really easy again. It's Sergio, I think that's his name. He sucks. You literally have him on screen for about 2 minutes. That's it. Like, there's no excuse for that. 2 minutes for, like, an actual enemy is just pointless. Like, name one memorable voice line. Honestly, I challenge you, okay? I challenge you to tell me right now. Like, quote him. Get a quote from Sergio. I dare you. I dare you to do it. Go on. Oh, wait. Again. You know, we'll do this again. We'll do this segment again. Get a Sergio quote right now. There's none. And this, again, is the worst issue. Sergio, there's just nothing to him. Super basic character. No interest in sort of angle on anything. Underwrote, underperforming. Sergio sucks. The end.